The Galactic Council's judgment spire hung in the endless dark between stars, a ring of black stone wider than a planet, humming with power older than memory. Inside, beneath a dome that showed swirling galaxies like living paintings, the air was thick with tension. 317 alien species sat in tiered circles, their forms strange and varied. Some made of light, others of crystal, some barely more than shadows with eyes. They had come to judge humanity. At the center of the chamber, held by invisible magnetic fields, stood 3 humans. Their clothes were simple, dark uniforms with no rank, no symbols. Commander Elias Rourke stood tall, his face calm despite the chains around his wrists. Beside him, Dr. Lena Moss adjusted her glasses with a steady hand, her eyes scanning the alien faces above. Behind them, Tariq Vale kept his head down, but his fingers twitched slightly, as if solving a problem only he could see. Grand Arbiter Voss rose from his throne of woven bone and star metal. He was a Krell, a species known for crushing rebellions without mercy. His voice rolled through the chamber like thunder through stone. Humans of Earth, you stand accused of violating the Prime Concord. You awakened the Titan Array, a weapon forbidden since the Age of Ashes. 3 star systems vanished in your fire. Billions gone. You will answer. A murmur rose from the crowd. Some species hissed, others pulsed with cold light. All expected the humans to beg, but Rourke stepped forward. The magnetic restraints groaned but held. He looked up, not with fear but with quiet certainty. "You're wrong," he said, his voice clear and strong. "We didn't fire the Titan Array, we aimed it." Silence fell so deep that even the hum of the spire seemed to pause. Voss leaned forward, his many eyes narrowing. "Explain yourself, flesh creature, before we unmake your world." Rourke didn't blink. The Titan Array wasn't built to destroy. It was built to protect. You all knew about the Void Maw, the thing that eats stars and leaves nothing behind. But instead of fighting it, you fed it. You gave it worlds you didn't like. The Virelli, the Orlan, the Sylph. You called them unstable, unworthy. But they were just different. Dr. Moss spoke now, her voice softer, but just as firm. "We found their records buried under ice in Antarctica. Not just data, songs, children's drawings, prayers. They trusted the galaxy, and you betrayed them." Tariq finally looked up. "The Titan Array doesn't shoot weapons. It shoots truth. It opens gates. We aimed it at the Void Maw not to kill it, but to show what you've been hiding." Before Voss could respond, red lights flashed across the chamber walls. Alarms wailed in dozens of languages. A massive star map appeared above them, showing the edge of known space. There, near the dead zone called the Maw's Maw, a new light pulsed, bright, steady, and growing. "It's working," Tariq whispered. The map zoomed in. The Titan Array, a structure so vast it wrapped around a dead star, was now active. But instead of firing energy, it was unfolding something like a flower made of light. From its center, a signal burst outward, clean and sharp, carrying images, voices, memories. The lost history of the Virelli. The final moments of the Orlan fleet as council ships turned on them. The council's own secret orders, signed by Voss himself. Gasps filled the chamber. Some delegates stood. Others trembled. A crystal being shattered in shock. Voss roared, slamming a clawed fist onto his throne. "Shut it down!" Silence them. But it was too late. The signal was already spreading. Across the galaxy, on 1,000 worlds, beings were seeing the truth for the first time. Rourke turned to face the crowd. "Earth didn't start this war. You did, when you chose lies over life. But we're ending it. Not with bombs, with memory." The Grand Arbiter's voice dropped to a deadly whisper. "Then you leave us no choice. The Council votes now." A wave of agreement rippled through the chamber. Species that had hated each other for centuries united in fear. One by one they raised their hands, claws, tendrils, or light signals. Unanimous. "Earth is hereby placed under galactic quarantine," Voss declared. "All human ships are to be seized. All colonies dissolved. Earth itself will be sealed behind a null field. No one enters. No one leaves." "You will fade into silence," Rourke nodded slowly. "You think silence is our end? It's our weapon." Security drones descended, energy nets forming around the humans. But as they were dragged away, Lena Moss smiled faintly. "They don't know," she murmured. "Know what?" Tariq asked. "That we were never alone out here." Outside the spire, in the cold dark of the Oort cloud far beyond Pluto, something shifted. Thousands of human ships, small, dark, and utterly undetectable, powered up their drives. They had been waiting for weeks, hidden not by stealth fields but by bending light and gravity in ways no alien science had imagined. Earth's fleet hadn't fled. It had been watching. Back on Earth, in underground bunkers and mountain command centers, President Eris Thorne watched the live feed from the spire. When the verdict came, he didn't flinch. He simply turned to his advisors and said, "Initiate Protocol Dawnfire." Across the planet, dormant systems woke. Deep beneath the oceans, ancient reactors hummed to life. In orbit, disguised satellites unfolded into weapon platforms. And on the moon, hidden factories began assembling something new, something the galaxy had never seen. The Council thought they understood humanity. They saw a young species barely spacefaring, loud and emotional, quick to fight. They didn't see the patience, the planning, the quiet fury that builds when you've watched your ancestors suffer, while the powerful looked away. As the humans were locked in a holding cell aboard the spire, Rourke leaned against the wall. "They'll come for Earth next," he said. "Let them," Lena replied. "When they get there, they'll find a world ready to fight. Not for conquest, but for justice." Tariq stared at the floor, then whispered, "We didn't bring war to the galaxy. We brought accountability." Outside, the stars burned cold and distant, but somewhere deep in human space a signal pulsed, not of destruction but of warning. A message sent to every free-thinking being in the galaxy: you are not alone, and you are not forgotten. The Council had declared quarantine, but Earth had already declared something else. War. Not the kind fought with fleets and fire, but the kind fought with truth, with courage, with the unshakable belief that even the smallest voice can shake the stars. And as the first human ships slipped past the edge of Council sensors, vanishing into the void like ghosts, the galaxy held its breath. Something had changed, and it would never be the same again. Weeks passed after the Judgment Spire. The galaxy watched Earth, waiting for panic, for surrender, for the broken cries of a species facing total isolation. But Earth said nothing. No broadcasts. No messages, no pleas. The silence was louder than any scream. On the frozen moon of Series 9, a Krell scout vessel drifted near an ice canyon. Its sensors swept the area, hunting for human activity. Nothing, just wind and frost. But then a flicker. Gravity bent where no mass existed. Energy readings decayed backward as if time itself stuttered. The scout captain frowned. "Impossible," he muttered. But before he could report it, his ship's systems glitched. Lights dimmed. Navigation failed. And in the static of his comms, a human voice whispered, "We see you." Far away aboard the stealth corvette. Whisper, Commander Elias Rourke studied a star map glowing on a simple screen. Around him, the ship was quiet. No bright lights, no loud machines. Everything was soft, efficient, hidden. Earth's silent fleet wasn't built for show. It was built to survive. "We've lost contact with Series 9, said a young officer at the comm station. Rourke nodded. "Good. That means they're working." Dr. Lena Moss entered the bridge holding a data pad. Her eyes were tired but sharp. "The Council is moving faster than we thought. They've activated the Iron Concord." The name sent a chill through the room. The Iron Concord was the Council's enforcement arm, a brutal force that crushed rebellions without trial. They didn't negotiate. They erased. "They're gathering near Proxima Centauri," Lena continued, preparing to enforce the quarantine. "If they lock down that system, Earth's last trade routes are gone." Tariq Vale, now wearing a patched engineer's jacket, leaned over a console. "They think we're hiding, but we're not hiding. We're waiting." Rourke turned to him. "Is it ready?" Tariq smiled faintly. "The echo dampeners are stable. We're not just invisible, we're unthinkable. Their sensors can't even form the idea that we're there." This was humanity's secret. While other species relied on shields and cloaking fields, Earth had taken a different path. Deep in Antarctica, scientists had found ruins left by an ancient race, the precursors. From their broken machines, humans learned to bend quantum echoes, making their ships exist in a state between moments, not hidden, forgotten. Lena sat beside Rourke. "We can't just stay silent forever. The galaxy needs to know the truth." We will tell them, Rourke said, but not with words. With proof, he tapped a command. The star map zoomed in on a dead zone near the galactic rim, the location of the Titan array. We didn't fire a weapon. We opened a door, and behind that door is the Cradle Network. The Cradle Network was more than a database. It was a living archive of every species the Council had erased. Songs, dreams, laws, lullabies, all stored in light and memory. The Titan array wasn't a gun. It was a key. Tariq stood. I've been running simulations. If we can link the Cradle to a major comms hub, like the relay station at Proxima, we can broadcast everything. The Varelli's last message. The Orlan Peace Treaty the Council burned. The truth. But the Iron Concord controls Proxima, Lena said. Rourke looked at her. Then we give them something else to worry about. 3 days later, the Iron Concord fleet arrived at Proxima Centauri. 500 warships, black and jagged, formed a blockade around the system's main relay station. On the command deck of the flagship Iron Maw, General Core of the Zenth gave orders. Scan for human signals, burn any ship that moves. But nothing moved. The system was empty. Then, without warning, the relay station's lights went out. Not damaged, just off, then it rebooted, and from its speakers, in every known language, a child's voice sang. It was a Varelli lullaby. Soft, sad, beautiful. Core snarled. Shut it down. But the song spread. It jumped to every ship in the fleet, to every planet in the system, to every listening ear in nearby worlds, and with the song came images of Varelli children playing in silver forests, of their cities blooming like flowers, of council ships descending with fire. On the mining world of Helios 4, workers stopped their drills. They looked at each other. We were told the Varelli were monsters, one said. No, another whispered. We were lied to. Rebellion sparked like wildfire. Back on the whisper, Rourke watched the chaos unfold on his screen. It's working. Lena nodded, tears in her eyes. They're remembering, but Tariq's face was grim. The Council won't let this stand. They'll come for Earth with everything they have. As if on cue, an alert flashed red. Incoming priority message from Mars, the comms officer said. Rourke opened the channel. A woman's face appeared. President Eris Thorne, standing in a bunker lit by emergency lights. Elias, she said, her voice steady. They're coming. The Iron Concord is splitting its forces. Half are heading to Mars. They think we're hiding our command center there. They're wrong, Rourke said. Thorne smiled. Good. Because we've got a surprise for them. She cut the feed. On Mars, beneath the red dust, massive domes opened. Not weapons, gardens. Vast, glowing biodomes filled with strange fungi and vines. But these weren't plants. They were engineered mycelial networks. Living computers that could interface with alien tech. When the Iron Concord ships entered orbit, the mycelia sent out pulses, gentle, curious, full of human emotion. The Concord's AI systems, built for logic and war, had never felt empathy. The sudden flood of human sorrow, hope, and love overloaded their cores. Ship after ship went dark, not destroyed but confused. Pilots wept at their consoles, overwhelmed by feelings they didn't understand. Meanwhile, on Titan, Lena Moss met with the Coral, a reclusive species that communicated through scent and shared dreams. They had ignored the galaxy for centuries, but when Lena offered them Earth's neural poetry archive, recordings of human dreams, fears and joys, the Coral Elder inhaled deeply and said, You carry the old song. They agreed to help. Back on the whisper, Rourke received new orders. President Thorne wants us at Proxima. Full broadcast. Now. The silent fleet moved like shadows through space. No engines roared. No signals leaked. They simply appeared near the relay station, linking their systems to the Cradle network. Tariq worked fast, uploading the first memory packet. Varelli genocide footage, council orders, personal logs. Lena watched the data flow. This will change everything. Rourke stood at the viewport staring at the stars. Or end us. The broadcast began. Across the galaxy, screens lit up. Public channels, military comms, even private homes suddenly filled with truth. The Council's lies unraveled in real time. Species that had obeyed out of fear now questioned everything. On the Krell homeworld, young warriors refused orders. On the crystal cities of Xylos, citizens demanded justice. The galaxy was waking up. But in the Council's core chamber, Grand Arbiter Voss watched the broadcast with cold fury. They think truth will save them, he growled. Truth is weakness. Power is control. He turned to his generals. Prepare the null seed. A weapon so terrible it didn't just destroy matter, it erased it from time itself. Once fired, a planet wouldn't just die. It would never have existed. Voss pointed at Earth. Let them broadcast all they want. Soon there will be no one left to hear. The null seed was loaded onto a dreadnought hidden in the heart of the Council's fortress world. Its launch sequence began. On Earth, alarms blared in secret bunkers. President Thorne stared at the threat assessment. They're going to erase us. But then a calm voice came over the line. It was Rourke. Don't worry, Madam President. We already moved the moon. Thorne blinked. What? Luna isn't where they think it is. As the null seed launched into space aimed at Earth's coordinates, something strange happened. The moon, Earth's faithful companion for billions of years, simply vanished from all sensors. Not exploded, not cloaked, gone. The Council's targeting systems lost lock. The null seed flew into empty space. On the whisper, Tariq grinned. Phase 2 begins now. Rourke looked at his crew. Tell the galaxy Earth doesn't hide. We prepare. And as the silent fleet vanished once more into the dark, the stars themselves seemed to hold their breath. The war had just begun. The galaxy burned not with fire but with truth. After the broadcast from Proxima Centauri, the Council's lies cracked open like old stone. On 100 worlds, people gathered in streets and plazas, watching the recovered memories of the Varelli, the Orlan, the Sylph. They saw children laughing, elders teaching, cities rising in peace, only to be crushed by Council warships under false flags. The silence that followed was heavier than any explosion. Earth remained quiet. No victory speeches, no demands, just stillness. But beneath that calm, humanity moved like a storm gathering in the dark. On Mars, the mycelial network spread through abandoned tunnels, linking to old mining drones and forgotten satellites. These weren't weapons, they were messengers. Each carried fragments of human stories. A grandmother's recipe, a soldier's letter home, a child's drawing of the stars. When the Iron Concord ships drifted too close, the mycelia reached out not to attack but to share. Conquered pilots, hardened by years of blind obedience, found themselves crying over songs they'd never heard, feeling grief for people they'd never known. Some ships simply powered down. Their crews stepped out onto the red dust and asked, "What have we done?" On Titan, Dr. Lena Moss walked through a dome filled with mist and soft light. Around her, the coral moved like slow shadows, their bodies releasing gentle scents that carried meaning. They had accepted Earth's gift, the neural poetry archive, and in return they offered something rare. Dream bridges. Through shared sleep, humans and coral began to understand each other without words. Lena learned that the coral remembered a time before the Council, when the galaxy sang in harmony. And they believed humanity could help bring that song back. Back aboard the Whisper, Commander Elias Rourke studied new reports. Revolts were spreading. Trade lanes had collapsed. The Council's control was slipping. But he knew this was only the beginning. The real test was coming. President Eris Thorne's face appeared on his screen. She looked tired but resolute. The Council is desperate, Elias. They're calling in every loyal fleet. They've declared martial law across 12 systems. Rourke nodded. They're scared. Good. They're also building something, Thorne said. We don't know what, but it's big, and it's hidden near their core world. Rourke's eyes narrowed. The null seed wasn't their last move. It was a warning. Meanwhile, Tariq Vale worked deep inside a hidden lab on the dark side of Mercury. Around him, holograms flickered, blueprints of the Cradle Network energy flows, ancient symbols from precursor ruins. He hadn't slept in days. His hands moved fast, connecting data streams, rewriting code, weaving human memory into the fabric of the network. We can't just show the past, he muttered to himself. We have to give them a future. His plan was simple but dangerous. Instead of just broadcasting lost histories, he would link the Cradle Network directly to the neural systems of every inhabited world. Not to control, to connect, so that when a Krell child dreamed, they might feel the warmth of a human lullaby. When a Xylos crystal being pulsed with thought, they might hear the sound of rain on Earth. It was empathy as a weapon, and humanity had perfected it. One night, as Earth turned beneath the stars, Tariq activated the final sequence. Initiating full Cradle integration, he whispered. Across the galaxy, Billions of beings paused. In their minds, a new feeling bloomed, soft, unfamiliar, but not unwelcome. A mother on a desert moon hugged her child tighter. A soldier on a warship lowered his weapon. A scientist on a frozen world wept as she remembered a melody she'd never heard before. The council tried to block it. They shut down relays, jammed signals, even destroyed their own comms towers. But the cradle wasn't in the machines. It was in the air, in the light, in the shared space between thoughts. You couldn't kill a feeling. Grand Arbiter Voss watched his empire unravel from his obsidian throne. His generals begged for orders. Crush the rebels! Burn the traitors! But Voss knew force wouldn't work anymore. The enemy wasn't out there. It was inside every mind that now carried a piece of Earth's soul. So he made his choice. Activate Protocol Omega, he commanded. His advisors froze. Arbiter, that will destroy the Judgment Spire. It's our seat of power. It will also destroy the human delegation, Voss said coldly, and with them the source of this infection. He believed Rourke, Moss, and Vale were still imprisoned in the spire waiting for rescue. He didn't know they had never been captured at all. The humans in the chamber had been holograms, perfect fakes fed by data from deep cover agents. The real team was already light years away, guiding Earth's silent war. But Voss didn't care. He would burn his own throne to stop the truth. On Earth, President Thorne received the alert. The Spire's core is destabilizing. They're going to blow it. She turned to her staff. Get the message out. To everyone, now. Within minutes, every free channel in human space carried a single transmission. It showed Rourke, Lena, and Tariq standing together on the bridge of the Whisper. No uniforms, no titles. Just three humans looking tired but unbroken. Rourke spoke first. If you're hearing this, the Council has chosen destruction over truth. Lena added, they think silence is our end. But silence is how we listen. And now the galaxy is listening too. Tariq stepped forward. We didn't come to conquer. We came to remember. And memory cannot be erased. Then Rourke looked straight into the camera. If you silence us, you silence the galaxy's conscience. And conscience always returns. The message ended. On the Judgment Spire, alarms screamed. Energy built in the core. Walls cracked. Light bent inward. The great ring began to collapse. But in a hidden chamber deep within the spire, long forgotten by the Council, a small device blinked to life. Planted weeks ago by a human agent posing as a maintenance drone, it activated the last piece of the Cradle network. As the spire imploded, instead of vanishing into nothing, its final moments were recorded, not as data but as feeling. The fear, the regret, the last spark of hope. That feeling shot out across space, carried on the same wave as the Cradle's song. On Earth, people looked up at the night sky. They didn't see explosions. They felt a quiet sadness, and then a strange peace. President Thorne stood on a hill outside Geneva watching the stars. They tried to bury us, she said softly, but they didn't know we were seeds. Far away, the Whisper drifted near the edge of known space. Rourke stood alone on the observation deck. He thought of the billions now carrying human dreams in their minds. He thought of the wars that might still come. But he also thought of the child on Helios 4 who had heard a Varelli lullaby and asked, why did they hurt them? That question was the beginning of change. Tariq joined him. It's working, isn't it? Rourke nodded. Not because we're strong, because we're human. And in that moment across the galaxy, 1,000 species began to ask the same question, not with anger but with wonder. What does it mean to be human? The answer would shape the future, not with fire, but with feeling, and Earth, quiet and watchful, waited for the next chapter to begin. The Judgment Spire was gone. Where once a ring of ancient stone had hung between the stars, now only dust and fading energy remained. But its destruction had not silenced humanity. Instead, it had amplified them. The final moments of the spire, its collapse, its sorrow, its secret shame, had been woven into the Cradle network and sent across the galaxy like a ripple in still water. Billions felt it, and feeling it, they could no longer pretend. On worlds that had obeyed the Council for centuries, people gathered in silence. Not to riot, not to fight, but to remember. They remembered the lies they'd been told, the wars they'd supported, the voices they'd ignored. And in that remembering, something new began to grow. Not hatred, but responsibility. Earth still said little, but its actions spoke louder than ever. Commander Elias Rourke stood on the bridge of the Whisper watching a new star map form. Red dots, Council loyalists, were shrinking. Green dots, free systems, were spreading. But one location glowed brighter than all. The Council's central archive, hidden inside a hollowed-out asteroid near the galactic core. It was the heart of their power. Not because of weapons, but because of control. Every law, every record, every truth they had twisted, it was all stored there. "We go in quiet," Rourke said. Dr. Lena Moss nodded. "Not to steal. To share." Tarek Vale adjusted his worn jacket. "The archive's shield is quantum-locked. No code can break it." "Then we won't break it," Rourke replied. "We'll open it." Their plan was simple and insane. They would fly the Whisper, small, dark, and nearly invisible, right into the archive's docking bay. Not as invaders, as guests, using forged clearance codes from a defected Zenth officer. They would walk inside like maintenance workers. And once inside, Tariq would plug the Cradle network directly into the archive's main core. Not to erase. To upload Earth's entire history. Every war, every peace, every poem, every child's drawing, every lullaby, every apology, would flood the system. Not as data, but as experience. The Council had spent millennia editing the past. Humanity would give it back, raw and real. The journey took 10 days. They passed through dead zones where no signals lived, past derelict warships frozen in time, through nebulae that shimmered like broken glass. The crew spoke little. They knew what was at stake. When they reached the archive asteroid, it loomed like a sleeping beast, smooth, dark, and silent. Docking clamps engaged with a soft thud. No alarms, no guards. The Council was too busy putting out fires across the galaxy to watch their own vault. Inside, the air was cold and sterile. Hallways stretched endlessly, lit by pale blue lights. Lena led the way, her eyes scanning for patrols. Tariq carried a small case inside, a neural link grown from Earth's mycelial networks designed to speak the archive's language. They reached the core chamber. A massive sphere of light floated in the center, humming with stored time. Tariq connected the link. The sphere pulsed once, then stilled. "Uploading now," he whispered. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the lights flickered. The walls shimmered. And suddenly the chamber filled with sound, human sound. A baby crying, a violin playing in the rain, soldiers whispering, "I'm sorry," before battle, a grandmother singing to her grandchild in a language no alien had ever heard. The archive didn't resist. It absorbed. It learned. Outside, alarms finally blared. Security drones swarmed the halls. But it was too late. The upload was complete. Earth's memory was now part of the galaxy's memory. Rourke turned to his team. Time to go. They ran, not in fear but in purpose. As they reached the docking bay, the Whisper's engines roared to life. Behind them, the archive asteroid began to glow, not with destruction but with light. Beams of pure information shot out in every direction, carrying Earth's story to every world, every ship, every mind that could receive it. Back on Earth, President Eris Thorne stood in a quiet room watching the data flow. She didn't smile, she wept, because she knew what this meant. Humanity was no longer just a species, it was a mirror. And the galaxy was finally looking into it. But Grand Arbiter Voss had not given up. From his hidden fortress, deep in the Council's last stronghold, he watched the archive's betrayal with cold fury. His hands clenched. His eyes burned. "If they want truth," he growled, "then let them have final truth." He activated the last weapon the Council had ever built, the Null Seed. Not the one aimed at Earth, a second one. Smaller, faster, hidden inside a scout drone. And this time it wasn't aimed at a planet. It was aimed at the moon, not Earth's moon, the one they had moved. Voss had tracked it. Through broken signals, through gravitational echoes, through sheer desperation, he had found Luna's new location, floating near the Council's Dyson ring, a massive energy collector that powered their entire fleet. He didn't know why Earth had moved the moon. But he knew one thing. If he erased it, he would erase whatever trap humanity had set. The Null Seed launched. On the Whisper, Rourke received the alert. They found Luna. Lena's face went pale. "Tariq?" Tariq was already at the console, fingers flying. "It's okay. It's supposed to happen. What do you mean? Rourke asked. Tariq looked up, his eyes bright. We didn't move the moon to hide it. We moved it to arm it. While the galaxy watched Earth, humanity had been working. Deep inside Luna, engineers had spent months converting its core. Not into a bomb, into a shield. And a spear. The moon now carried kinetic rods made from compressed asteroid metal, quantum disruptors tuned to council frequencies, and a gravity lens that could bend light into a weapon. And at its heart, the Titan array's signal had been rerouted, so that if the moon was attacked, it would not die quietly. It would answer. The null seed struck. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then Luna vanished from sensors again. Not destroyed, redirected. The moon reappeared not in empty space, but inside the Dyson ring itself, nestled between its massive solar collectors like a wolf in a sheep pen. Alarms screamed across the council's network. Ships scrambled, but it was too late. From the moon's surface, beams of focused gravity lanced out not to destroy but to disable. Solar collectors folded in on themselves. Power conduits overloaded. The Dyson ring went dark, and then from Luna's core a new broadcast began, not of war. Of invitation. It showed Earth, not as a fortress but as a home. Fields of wheat under blue skies, children laughing in parks, scientists sharing coffee at dawn, artists painting stars they'd never seen. It showed humanity not as conquerors but as neighbors. We are not your enemy, the message said in every language. We are your chance to be better. On the bridge of an iron-conquered ship, a young pilot removed his helmet. He looked at his hands that had fired on innocent worlds, and whispered, I didn't know. He powered down his weapons. One by one, ships across the fleet did the same. But Voss refused to yield. He stood on his command deck, watching his empire crumble. If I fall, he said, I will take the truth with me. He triggered the self-destruct sequence of his fortress. The entire structure would collapse into a black hole, swallowing all data, all evidence, all memory. Rourke saw it coming. He's going to erase everything. Lena shook her head. No, he can't. The truth isn't in buildings. It's in people. As the fortress imploded, the whisper raced away. Behind them, space twisted, light bent, time screamed, but the cradle network held. Because it wasn't stored in one place. It was alive. In minds, in songs, in dreams. In the final seconds before the collapse, Rourke and Lena sent one last message, not to the Council, but to the galaxy. If you silence us, Rourke said, you silence the galaxy's conscience. And conscience, Lena added softly, always returns. The fortress vanished, but the message remained, and somewhere, in the quiet dark, the moon watched over a changing galaxy. No longer a rock, but a promise. Earth had not won with fire. It had won with feeling, and that was a war no weapon could undo. The dust settled. Not the dust of war, but the quiet ash of old lies burning away. The Council was gone, not destroyed in fire, but undone by truth. Its fleet stood idle. Its laws lay broken. Its name, once spoken with fear, now carried only shame. And in its place, something fragile began to grow. On Earth, the sky was clear. No warships, no blockades, just blue and clouds and birds returning to skies they had long avoided. In Geneva, under real sunlight and real rain, President Eris Thorne walked through a garden of cherry blossoms. Around her, delegates from 100 worlds gathered, not in armor, not in judgment, but in simple clothes, some barefoot, some wrapped in cloth woven from their homeworlds. They came not to conquer, but to listen. Dr. Lena Moss stood near a stone bench, speaking softly with a being made of shifting light from the Xylos system. They shared tea, earth tea, bitter and warm, and talked not of treaties, but of dreams. The Xylos being had dreamed of oceans last night, not their own methane seas, but Earth's blue waves crashing against shores they had never seen. Lena smiled. That's how it starts, she said. Not with laws. With longing. Commander Elias Rourke watched from a distance. He wore no uniform now, just a dark coat and boots worn from travel. The war was over, but he couldn't rest, not yet, because peace, he knew, was not the end. It was the beginning of something harder. Trust. Tariq Vale was not there. He had stayed behind on the moon, now called Luna Prime, overseeing the final integration of the Cradle network into the galaxy's shared systems. From its surface, the Titan array no longer aimed at threats. It now sent out pulses of memory, art, and science, open to all, owned by none. It was no longer a weapon. It was a library. A lighthouse. The summit in Geneva was called the Human Accord, not because humans ruled it, but because they had reminded the galaxy what it meant to be alive. The charter was simple. No species would be erased. No truth would be buried, and no one would stand alone. As the delegates signed the accord with ink, light, scent, or song, each in their own way, Thorn stood and spoke. "We did not fight to win," she said. "We fought to be heard. And now that you hear us, we ask only this: listen to each other." The word spread. Not through force, but through choice. On Mars, former Iron Concord soldiers worked alongside human engineers, planting real trees in red soil. On Helios 4, children of rebels and loyalists played together in rebuilt schools, learning both Virelli songs and Earth math. Even the Krell, once the Council's fiercest enforcers, sent young warriors to Earth not to train for battle, but to learn how to heal. But the galaxy was not safe yet. Deep in the void, beyond the edge of mapped space, the void maw stirred. It had been quiet since the Titan array's first pulse. But now, with the surge of shared consciousness flooding the stars, it awakened, not with hunger but with pain. The maw was not a monster. It was a dying god of forgotten time, a remnant of a universe before this one, lost and calling for help. Its signal was not sound. It was sorrow. A loneliness so deep it bent reality. On Luna Prime, Tariq received the first echo. He didn't understand it at first, but when he linked it to the Cradle network, the truth became clear. The maw was not eating stars. It was trying to remember them. He sent the data to Earth. Rourke read the report in silence. Then he walked to Thorne's office. "It's calling," he said. She looked up from her desk. "Can we answer?" "We have to," he replied. "If we ignore it, it will keep reaching out, and its reach breaks worlds." Lena joined them. "The Quarrel say the maw is the last echo of the first song, the sound that made everything. If it dies, part of the universe dies with it." Thorne stood. "Then we don't go to fight. We go to heal." A new ship was already being built. Not a warship. Not even a scout. It was called the Accord Dawn. Its hull was lined with living mycelia. Its core held recordings of every lullaby ever sung on Earth. Its crew would include humans, Quarrel, Xylos, even a reformed Krell navigator. Their mission? To find the Void Maw, not as enemies but as friends. Rourke would lead it. He stood on the launch field one morning, the sun rising behind him. The Accord Dawn gleamed white and silver, quiet and strong. Lena walked with him to the ramp. "You don't have to go," she said. "I do," he answered, "because someone has to show the galaxy that courage isn't about winning. It's about caring enough to try." She handed him a small box. Inside was a seed from an earth oak tree. "Plant it out there," she said. "So even in the void, something green can grow." He took it and nodded. As the ship lifted off, people across Earth stopped what they were doing. They looked up. Not in fear. In hope. The Accord Dawn passed the moon, now a beacon of peace. It sailed past Mars, green shoots rising in its valleys. It flew beyond the asteroid belt where old warships floated as museums, their guns silent, their stories told. And then it entered the deep dark. Weeks passed. Then months. The galaxy waited. But this time not in fear. In wonder. One day a signal came back. Not words. A sound, soft, rhythmic, like a heartbeat. And beneath it the faint hum of an Earth lullaby. The maw was listening. Back on Earth, children played under cherry blossoms. Farmers harvested wheat under open skies. Scientists shared discoveries with beings from distant stars. There were still arguments, still mistakes. But now, when someone spoke, others listened. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy. They had reminded it how to feel. And in that feeling, a new age began, not of empires, but of neighbors. Rourke stood on the bridge of the Accord Dawn, watching the stars. The Void Maw filled the view screen, not as a hole, but as a wound. He activated the mycelial link. The ship sent out a pulse, not of energy, but of memory. A mother holding her child, a soldier laying down his gun, a stranger offering bread. The maw pulsed back, not with hunger, with thanks. "We didn't win the war," Rourke said softly. "To no one, and to everyone. We made the galaxy remember it didn't have to be one." And in that moment, across the endless dark, something old began to heal, not with fire, with care. And Earth, small and bright and stubborn, watched over it all. Not as a ruler, but as a friend. The stars burned on, and for the first time in a long time they burned with hope.